Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to I Loaf You. Today we are going to be making our sourdough bread. So we are actually going to get our sourdough starter started today. And I'm going to let it sit in the refrigerator for a couple days. So I'm going to start out with our yeast. And our first bit of warm water. And I am going to throw in just a pinch of sugar just to help activate our yeast a little bit quicker. I am just going to grab a fork. This is just such a small amount here. And just mix this up so that our yeast is completely mixed in. And then I'm going to let this sit aside for probably 7 or 8 minutes just to let our yeast continue to rise. And then we will continue on. Alright, so our yeast mixture started to bubble a little bit. So I am now going to have our flour in our mixer bowl. And I am going to add to that alright, so now we have our yeast mixture, our water, and our flour in our mixer bowl. And we are just going to turn this on and mix it until it all comes together. Alright, so now that our starter is all mixed together, you want to put this in a container that has a lot of extra room in it for it to rise, that also has a lid. In my experience, it does sometimes double or triple its size in the refrigerator, depending how long you keep it, obviously. So I'm using a very large container here for the amount. And I'm just going to cover this and put it in the refrigerator. I personally am going to be refrigerating this, I believe, for 2 to 3 days. However, it can be kept in the fridge longer than that prior to use. It does last very well, and it gets a distinct sourdough flavor the longer you let it sit. Alright, so it is the night before, and you just want to make sure that you take your sourdough starter out of the refrigerator. That way tomorrow we can make our sourdough bread. Alright, so it is the next morning. We are going to get our sourdough bread going here. So we want to start with our water, our yeast. I'm just going to lightly whisk this together. Just to combine and dissolve our yeast. And then I am going to add our flour on top. Apologize about the meowing cat in the background. So now I'm going to just make a little hole here. And I'm going to add our salt to that indent. And I'm just going to cover it back up with flour, because I am going to be weighing our sourdough starter in now. So I usually will put on gloves here just to make this a little less messy on myself. going to put this onto our mixer with our dough hook attachment. At this point here, now that our dough is mixed, again, it is still going to be very, very sticky. I am just removing the dough hook from our bowl, and we are going to scrape the sourdough bread dough into a greased bowl. I'm just going to put a little bit of plastic wrap over the top and allow this to rise. Alright, so our dough has doubled in size, and I have quite a large pile of flour here to work with, just because this is a very, very sticky dough. I'm going to dump that out, and I make sure that I just cover my surfaces with flour. I don't punch this dough down too much, as it does take quite a while to rise sometimes. And I am going to divide this in 3 as equal as you can pieces. If you want to weigh it, that is fine. But now I am just going to push these to the side. And you just want to roll this up so it's more like a loaf. And then I'm just going to place this into our greased loaf pan. We're going to do the same with the remaining 2. So now again, we are going to let these rise. I'm going to let them come pretty close to the top of the pans. If you want a more rustic look, you can leave them like this. I am going to actually spray these with water and put some plastic wrap loosely over the top while they rise, just to keep the tops moist, so it's more consistent looking across the top of the loaf when they're done baking. Alright, my dough is risen almost to the top at the highest peak of the dough right now. It is almost at the top of our pans. So I've preheated our oven to 400 degrees, and I'm going to get these in the oven. They will continue to rise a little more as they bake, so we will get them in there to bake. Alright, our bread came out of the oven and it's nice golden brown. If you look at the bottoms, it is also a nice golden brown, and it's nice and crusty. We are going to now let this cool on our cooling rack, and then you can slice, use for sandwiches, use for whatever it is that you like to use your sourdough bread for. If you stay tuned, I believe a week or 2 from now, I will be posting a video that we will actually be using this bread in, because I'm getting ready to film that one next, so stay tuned. But this is the finished product of the sourdough bread. So if you give it a try, let me know how your results came out down below. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section down below as well. And happy baking!